While New Yorkers are being harassed and arrested at Burger King and getting kicked out of Cheesecake Factory and Panera Bread, and children are being dragged from restaurants because they haven't shown their papers, this is what the New York City, quotes, public health officials want to discuss. So, fresh off of their brand new safe injection sites, they want to talk about fentanyl. And this is directly from the New York City Healthy Instagram account. I've talked about them in the past. They trigger me to no end, but this is a new post, and we have here a photo of a handsome young woman, I guess. She says, "I always ask people if they know about fentanyl. Giving people information and fentanyl test strips can help save their life. Clara from Manhattan." And then below it says, "Let's prevent overdose. Keep yourself and your community safe." Now, it's sad to think that somebody actually got paid to make this graphic, but the post is captioned, "Do you know about fentanyl?" Fentanyl is a powerful opioid that has been found in heroin, cocaine, crack, methamphetamine, ketamine, and pills from non-medical sources. Anyone who uses drugs that may contain fentanyl, even occasionally, may be at risk of overdose. Now, I don't know how many occasional crack smokers there are out there, but I'll move on. The presence of fentanyl in the New York City drug supply has dramatically increased the number of overdose deaths, and fentanyl is now the most common drug involved in overdose deaths. In 2020, 1,580 New Yorkers died from a fentanyl-involved overdose. Now, I think San Francisco's probably doing worse. I know for sure that overdose deaths far outpaced Rona deaths in 2020, but they don't care about that. They're just going to cancel Christmas and cancel New Year's because the Omarion is surging and it's just far too dangerous. And they also don't want to talk about where the fentanyl is coming from or how it got here. That might be considered racist. However, they give us some bullet points on how to prevent an overdose, and they use the cute little purple heart emojis. They say, avoid using alone and take turns. Start with a small dose and go slowly. Now, this to me seems like they're actively encouraging drug use, because are we really to believe that the aging junkie sitting under the Williamsburg Bridge is scrolling through Instagram to see what the New York City public health officials have to say about his drug use? Absolutely not. And then they talk about naloxone. Keep naloxone ready and on hand. Call 311 to find out where to get naloxone at no cost. Of course, it's always at no cost. They're going to save your life for free. And I've talked about naloxone in the past, maybe a little bit too much, but it's so invasive. There's ads on the subway. They're running ads on TV. There was that weird piece of product placement where the former Surgeon General Jerome Adams was teaching people how to make a mask out of an old t-shirt when Rona first started, and the shirt just happened to say "Got Naloxone" on the front. Then there was that time I was talking to those BLM protesters at the New York City Chaz, and when I asked them what their message was, they said that they were giving lessons on how to administer opioid overdose medication. And I'm like, what does this have to do with George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or any of these black lives that you claim to be fighting for? And then you realize that naloxone, or Narcan, is at least in part funded by the George Soros Open Societies Foundation, and it starts to make a little bit more sense, but I'm getting off track. They say, avoid mixing drugs. Okay, so just pick one and stick with it. We don't want you to get off anything completely, because if you show up too clear-headed, you might start to object to some of the weirdo things that we're trying to do, and we won't be able to use you as a political wedge to enact the awful policies that we're trying to push. Then they say, test your drugs using fentanyl test strips. Okay, again, are we to believe that the aging junkie under the Williamsburg Bridge is going to test his dope for fentanyl before he bangs it into his arm? I certainly don't think so, but this is how stupid that they think we are. They're telling us that Christmas is too dangerous and New Year's is too dangerous. Eating a cheeseburger at Burger King is too dangerous, however disgusting. Dessert at Cheesecake Factory is too dangerous. But if you want to shoot dope, that's totally fine. We'll give you a safe space, or you can do it under the bridge. Just make sure that you test it for fentanyl first. And if you do a little bit too much, don't worry. We have our government-sponsored opioid overdose medication that you can use. And just remember that the government is always going to save your life.